Welcome everybody to the strange and scary mysteries of the month, where we find you the craziest true crime stories from all around the world currently going down, and lay them out for you to wrap your head around. Thanks so much for tuning in, and here are the strange and scary mysteries of the month for September 2024. Number 5. The Widow's Secrets. Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne is a calm, unassuming town in southern France that sits close to the Italian border. The kind of place where life moves slowly and nothing truly dark ever really happens. But on June 8th of 1997, all that changed when 17-year-old Cécile Valin vanished without a trace. Eventually, though, she would be connected to a monster who was responsible for at least 12 murders. And now, that monster's wife is on trial for being part of all the madness. Cécile was last seen around 6 p.m. that day, walking along a country road. She was just a teenager with everything in front of her, but that evening, the world seemingly swallowed her whole. Her disappearance launched a massive search along the French and Italian countryside, but with no indications or evidence as to what happened. In the end, she was never found. And for years, her case grew cold, but fast forward to the present day, and now new information has emerged. And with it, a name long feared by the public, but likely forgotten by most, Monique Olivier. Olivier, now 75 years old, was no stranger to horror, because for 16 years, she had been the accomplice to one of Europe's most notorious serial killers. Her husband, Michel Fourniret, the man they called the Ogre of the Ardennes. And together they hunted, abducted, and murdered young women and girls. Olivier acted as the bait, luring the unsuspecting victims by appearing to be a harmless helper, before offering them up into the deadly clutches of Michel. And together they had somewhere between 8 to 12 victims that authorities knew about, and recently another one was added to that list, Cécile Valin. And the pieces of this puzzle began to fall into place when in 2023, Olivier made a chilling admission during a separate trial where she revealed that around June of 1997, just days after Cécile disappeared, Fourniret had strangled a young babysitter to death at their home in Belgium. And the timing was too close, the location too suspicious. But Olivier denied this connection, claiming that they had never been near the region where the young girl vanished. However, if you're capable of murder, well, it's safe to say you're also capable of lying. And Fourniret's crimes were brutal and methodical. His victims, girls like British student Jonah Parrish and 9-year-old Estelle Mouzine, had been hunted down like prey, and Olivier had been there every step of the way. She knew the playbook, and she knew how to keep her own hands seemingly clean. That is, until now. The disappearance of Valin had always been a question mark in the minds of investigators. And was she just another runaway, or had she fallen victim to something far more sinister? Olivier's potential involvement in this case could provide the answer, but her lawyer, Richard Delguines, insists that these interviews are counterproductive for the Valin family. But to a family that's been searching for answers for nearly 3 decades, there is nothing more productive than getting to the truth. As Cécile's family continues to wait, the focus remains on Olivier. She could be holding the final answer, the one that could bring closure to a case that's haunted France for 27 years. Number 4. Murder of Janelle Matthews. Back on December 20th of 1984, over in the winter wonderland of Greeley, Colorado, 12-year-old Janelle Matthews had just finished performing in her middle school's choir's Christmas concert. Her parents unfortunately couldn't make it to see her though. Her mom Gloria was out of town for work, and her father Jim had to be at her sister's basketball game. But this was no problem, as Janelle had arranged a ride home with a friend, Deanna, and her father Ross. They dropped the girl off at her house around 8 p.m. At 8:30 p.m., Janelle answered her call and took a message for her dad. When Jim returned from the game at around 9:30 or so, Janelle wasn't there. And that phone call she picked up would be the last time anyone would ever hear her voice. Janelle never made it to Christmas that year. And to make matters worse, her own father was the prime suspect, even going on to fail a polygraph test, which muddied the waters. Ultimately, he was cleared, though, and his daughter's disappearance on that frigid Colorado night remained a mystery for the next 35 years. And then, in July of 2019, oil field workers discovered the remains of what was later confirmed to be the body of the 12-year-old girl in an oil and gas site near her home in Weld County. The medical examiners determined a single shot to the head had caused her death. And from there, the investigation picked up momentum, and soon an interesting name began to pop up on the authorities' radar: Steve Pankey. And Pankey lived only 2 miles from the Matthews home at the time Janelle disappeared, and he was a man with many faces: father, husband, used car salesman, and later on a failed politician with 2 disastrous attempts to run for Idaho governor.
And true ethical standards in business. I don't see myself as a politician, I see myself as a statesman.
And Pankey's ex-wife, Angela Hicks, painted a disturbing picture of their life together, and she described him as controlling, a man who wouldn't even let her listen to the radio or drive without his permission. During his political bids in 2014 and 2018, Pankey tried to portray himself as a man of traditional core values, a Christian with a biblical vision for Idaho. But his message didn't resonate with voters, and there was just something about the guy that people didn't like. He won only 1.4% of the vote during his second campaign, barely leaving a mark on the political stage. Yet, it wasn't Pankey's failed political ambitions that drew the most attention. Authorities were drawn to him because he just couldn't stay away. Over the years, time and time again, he inserted himself into the investigation, offering cryptic details like the fact that a rake had been used to erase footprints outside the Matthews home, information only the killer could have known. As investigators pieced together Pankey's odd behaviors, they found that the day after Janelle disappeared, Pankey abruptly announced a family trip to California, abandoning their 2 Great Danes with no explanation. Those dogs were never seen again. During the drive back, he insisted on listening to news reports about the missing girl, even forcing Hicks to read the articles out loud to him over and over again. When they came back, she noticed her husband immediately began digging in their yard. Days after, one of their cars burst into flames. He then discarded the vehicle at a local salvage yard. Not long after, they moved away from the neighborhood altogether. It took many years, but in 2020, Steve Pankey was finally arrested for the murder of Janelle Matthews. His first trial ended with a hung jury in 2021, but during the second, the verdict became clear. In 2022, Steve Pankey was found guilty of second-degree kidnapping and felony murder. And currently, even though he maintains his innocence, Pankey sits behind bars at the Arkansas Valley Correctional Facility in Colorado. At 73, he'd been handed a life sentence with the possibility of parole after 20 years, which means by the time he's eligible in 2040, he'll be 89 years old. Number 3. A nurse's final shift. On September 4th of 2024, 32-year-old nurse Melissa Jubain missed her shift at St. Vincent Hospital in Beaverton, Oregon. That Wednesday morning, the usual hum of hospital activity was interrupted by the whispers of concern from her coworkers as the minutes and then hours passed by, with Melissa not showing up. It was unlike her to miss work, and to not reach out with an explanation why was completely unheard of. By 10:30 a.m., with texts remaining unanswered and calls going straight to voicemail, the police were called in to take a look. As Beaverton authorities entered her apartment, joined by worried friends and apartment staff, they were met with an eerie quiet. The home was undisturbed, as if Melissa had just stepped out for a moment. There was no signs of a struggle, no clues or a note. Investigators quickly discovered that Melissa's phone had been turned off, her bank accounts untouched, and by Wednesday afternoon, with still no word from her, she was officially declared a missing person. Within a matter of hours, the search really began. Despite their best efforts, family, friends, and officers all came up empty. Melissa had simply disappeared. The neighborhood she lived in, known for its calm and safety, had now become the epicenter of a very strange mystery. On Friday, just 2 days later, the mystery then unraveled in the most devastating way imaginable. The 27-year-old Bryce Schubert, a neighbor of Melissa's, was arrested on murder charges. And this news hit the community hard, as Bryce was someone who blended into the background of life, the type of neighbor you barely even noticed. And yet, lurking beneath the surface of him was something far more messed up. The investigation, which was described as extensive, left police with no choice but to charge Schubert with the murder of the nurse that so many had loved. The exact details of how Melissa was killed and why, though, remain sealed for now, with police guarding the integrity of the investigation. And for the tight-knit team at St. Vincent, the grief was palpable. In a statement, the hospital expressed their heartbreak, mourning the loss of a woman who had spent her days caring for others, only to have her life ended in such a tragic and senseless way. Even outside the hospital, Melissa's presence had been felt. Her friends described her as glowing, full of energy and light. Oscar Cardenas, a close friend, couldn't comprehend how something like this could happen in a place they all felt was so safe. Why was her life taken by someone who lived just steps away, someone she likely saw every day? Well, time will tell on the matter, and hopefully, justice will be served to the fullest extent. Number 2. Desert Secrets. 24-year-old Elijah Bradley was described by those who knew him best as a bright and beloved soul with a free spirit, and his love for the outdoors and adventure was only matched by his deep connection to his family. But on August 12th of this year, the day after celebrating his birthday, Elijah's world, and the world of those who loved him, would take a devastating turn. He failed to show up for work, and then he didn't phone his mother that evening, a call he never missed, and the unease began to build. Realizing nobody knew where he was and no one had heard from him, by August 15th, Elijah was officially declared missing. His family, growing desperate for answers, turned to the police, and soon a horrifying discovery in the Arizona desert would answer the question as to where Elijah was. It was 4 agonizing days later, on August 19th, that authorities discovered Bradley's SUV parked in the isolated area of Gila Bend, which was about an hour away from his hometown in Gilbert. It was abandoned, and so from there, police fanned out. Eventually, that's when they came upon several black trash bags, freshly dumped across the sand and gravel and underneath the brush. They knew, just by looking at it, what it was. Inside those bags was Elijah. Clearly, this was a brutal murder, but who would have done such a thing to the bright and cheerful engineering student? The answer, when it came out, would be both shocking and deeply tragic. On September 4th, the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office made the arrest of 23-year-old Samuel Bush. And Bush, the man who now stands accused of the brutal crime, wasn't just a stranger who had crossed paths with Elijah by chance. No, Samuel and Elijah were good friends. In fact, they had grown up together, known one another since childhood. As to what could have happened between them to turn this bond of friendship into one of bloodshed, we'll have to wait for all the facts to come out as the court case gets underway. All the details of what led to Elijah's murder remain for now shrouded in mystery. Police are not releasing all the details, but as of the making of this episode, Samuel Bush faces charges of second-degree murder and concealing a body. In a heartfelt statement, Elijah's mother expressed the deep void left by her son's death, saying, "The world will never experience his kindness again. He was my everything, and it is inconceivable to me that I have to wake up every day to a world without Elijah." It is a sad and chilling case. It just goes to show that sometimes the scariest stories aren't the ones that come from strangers lurking in the shadows ready to pounce. And sometimes they're the ones where the monsters are the people we've known all our lives. Number 1. The mystery of the Maynard's disappearance. Imagine waking up in a peaceful, secluded community, one where your neighbors are your friends and a place you can feel truly free. For many, Olive Dell Ranch in Redlands, California is that spot, because it's a quiet, nudist RV park hidden away from the noise and chaos of the outside world. As it turns out, even in such a serene sanctuary, the danger can be lurking at any time, anywhere. 73-year-old Stephanie Maynard and her husband, 79-year-old Daniel, were well known among the Olive Dell residents. They lived simply, enjoying their days here. They were last seen on August 24th at around 10 a.m. attending church. But when the couple and their little Shih Tzu, Cuddles, went missing the following day, the sense of tranquility at Olive Dell was completely shattered.
Concern continuing to grow for the elderly couple and their treasured pup. They haven't been seen since Saturday, and with each passing day, neighbors and friends say they are growing more and more concerned about their safety.
The couple's car was found abandoned down the road a piece, doors unlocked, just left there, almost as if whoever put it in that spot wanted it to be found. Inside their RV home, Daniel's cell phone and Stephanie's purse sat untouched. Either the Maynards left in a hurry, though that made no sense as they had lived there for so long, or something bad happened. It wouldn't be long before police arrived to investigate the disappearance. As they descended upon the community and began combing through the area, a chilling tip then came in. A family member of the couple told police something that no one could have expected. That they had heard that the couple's neighbor, 62-year-old Michael Roy Sparks, had admitted to killing 2 people. Now Sparks, the man who lived right next door, had always been a bit of a recluse, but murder? Well, there was only one way to find out. With this revelation, the police quickly turned their attention to Sparks. On August 29th, they circled up on his property, preparing to bring him in for questioning. But what they found was a house that seemed eerily empty. They knocked, shouted, and waited, but still nothing. And fearing that Sparks might be armed and dangerous, the police obtained a warrant and deployed drones to survey the area. Still, though, no signs of Sparks. That's when they brought in the big guns, quite literally. The Tat Cat, a massive armored caterpillar, was used to break into Sparks' home, tearing through walls and floors. The house was slowly being reduced to rubble, and still no sign of the man. But it was what lay underneath that truly shook them. Hidden beneath the floor, they noticed an underground bunker, and inside they found Michael Sparks, though he wasn't going to go down without a fight. He was armed with a rifle, and in a desperate attempt, he aimed the weapon at his head. But fate had other plans, and the gun jammed, giving officers the chance to arrest him before he could do any further harm. But the real horror was just about to be found. As police searched the property, already damaged from their forced entry, they stumbled upon human remains. The body parts were scattered, leading officers to fear the worst. After several more days of excavation and investigation, they confirmed what the entire community had dreaded. Those remains belonged to Stephanie and Daniel Maynard. Authorities quickly charged Sparks with 2 counts of felony murder, including a special circumstance for multiple killings. If convicted, he could spend the rest of his life behind bars, never to walk free again. In addition to his crimes, the couple's beloved dog Cuddles has so far not been found, which only adds insult to injury. What really happened, we'll find out soon enough. The question is, was this premeditated or a moment of madness? will be interesting to hear Michael's side of the story. The peaceful Olive Dell Ranch, once a sanctuary for those who wanted to live freely, now holds a dark secret beneath its soil, another place tainted. The Maynard's neighbors, once filled with camaraderie, are now left wondering how they missed the signs, asking could they have done something, anything, to prevent this. So there were the strange and scary mysteries of the month for September 2024. If you enjoyed this, please remember to subscribe and hit the bell so you know when we're putting out our new content. And for even more exclusive episodes, please consider supporting us over on Patreon. There's 4 of those going out every single month. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next one.